Hello and welcome to Scale to Seven Figures and our $1 Million Fireside Chat. I am Lisa Anderson, Strategic Business Advisor, Virtual CFO with Anavo Transformation Solutions and your $1 Million mentor. And I am excited you are joining me. Scale to Seven Figures is an interactive group of small business owners in the business to corporate, and business to government markets who are ready to scale their businesses to the next level. Our group is an opportunity to share, learn, and grow together without competition. Each week, I bring tips, tactics, and strategies through our $1 Million Masterclasses and our $1 Million Fireside Chats. If you are not familiar with us, head on over to www.scaletosevenfigures.com and check us out. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy our next powerful conversation. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's $1 Million Fireside Chat. I am super excited to have you all joining us today. And thank you all for tuning in, and just say hello in the chat below to let me know who's there, who's watching, and also share with us some of the insights that you're gaining as we go through this conversation. Once again, I'm excited to be here to share information. We are now live streaming from 3 different locations. So we're live streaming from Facebook, we're live streaming from YouTube, and we are now live streaming from LinkedIn. And I am so super excited to add my LinkedIn community to this conversation. It has been a long time coming and something that I have been working on feverishly, but really excited to have you all join us in this conversation. So again, I am Lisa Anderson, Strategic Business Advisor and Virtual CFO with Anavo Transformation Solutions and your $1 Million mentor. And our $1 Million Fireside Chat, so something that I bring to the community on a weekly basis. It's an opportunity for us to have conversations with myself and other experts in the industry to talk about some of the challenges that business owners face as they travel along their journey to make it to and through 7 figures, but most importantly, to travel on the journey of building a sustainable legacy. The Fireside Chats are a component of our Scale to 7 Figures programming and also a part of Anavo Transformation Solutions. And one of the ways that I work hard to help achieve our mission, which is to help 1 million achieve millions. Each month, I bring these conversations to the marketplace with a theme. And the theme for the month of October is capacity. And most specifically, this month, we're talking about the importance of building capacity. And last week, I actually entered the month with a brief conversation about how capacity is ingrained in everything in business. It doesn't matter whether you are expanding or contracting or just sitting on a plateau. In any of those cases, capacity is the answer to the question. And so that's one of the things that we are exploring this month. But most specifically, we're talking about this month about building your A-team, that will help you build your capacity in every phase of business that you're in. And your A-team includes such people as your banker, your insurance broker, your tax accountant, your human resources consultant, your CFO, as well as your strategic business advisor. But this month, we are really focusing in on, and we're doubling down on building your legal capacity and making certain that you have the right legal support and advisory as a part of your A-team. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start talking about that conversation and building your A-team and building capacity in your legal area of your business by having a conversation today about protecting your intellectual property. Today, I have on as a guest with me, Letonya Moore, and she is a powerhouse. She is an attorney, an intellectual property attorney, and essentially what she does is she helps us protect our ideas. And, I talk a lot about how ideas, they just happen throughout business. Every day we are faced with decisions, we're faced with building processes, we're faced with putting solutions in place, innovation, creating ways in which we can help bring a solution to the marketplace. And these are all ideas that need to be protected. And so today, Letonya is going to help me have that conversation. So let me bring Letonya in so that we can start this dynamic discussion. Hey, Letonya.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you here today. This is, a long time coming and very necessary, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So before we dive in, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and tell us about your business.
Thank you. So, like Lisa mentioned, my name is Letonya Moore. I'm an attorney, and my passion is really it's really around legacy building. And for those of us that are in business, intellectual property really is that thing that we disregard because, quite frankly, a lot of us don't know. And so in my company, the name of my firm is Southern Regional Law Group. That is definitely one of the areas that we look at. And we have what we call the 360-degree brand protection methodology that really takes into account not just intellectual property and some other things, all leading up to protecting your brand, but also protecting your legacy.
Protecting your legacy. That's what this journey is all about, right? I talk to a lot of business owners throughout, the course of every single day now, and not just every single month or every single
I saw
year.
your calendar.
Ooh, girl, it's no joke right now. It's no joke. But legacy, for a long time, it hasn't entered the conversation for a lot of individuals, business owners in particular, until they get to the end of the business road, right? They get to the end of the road, they're ready to retire, they're ready to hang up their hat, they're ready to move on to something else, but they hadn't really thought about legacy. And when they get to that end and they want this to be something of value that can be sold or transitioned or transferred, they realize, oops, that's something I did wrong. I don't have as much value in this thing now. And so I think it's important that, legacy be a conversation that starts from day one all the way to day zero, right? All the way to the end of the road. So I think that's fantastic. So let's talk about intellectual property for real. I mean, let's define it first. There's so many components that go into it. So tell us a little bit about, how you define it and what, business owners should be thinking about as it relates to things they need to protect inside their legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I talk to business owners or laymen about intellectual property, it really comes down to this. What is that thing that you have created that is or can be a tangible item? Right? It's really as simple as that. Like, what is that idea that you had that can go from being an idea in your head to something tangible in your hand? And all of those things is intellectual property. And part of the reason that I believe that people don't think about it as much is because they don't have to labor for it, right? It's something that comes out of, there is a small amount of value that is attached to something that we don't work for, quote unquote, we feel that we don't work for. And so therefore, we don't really think about it as being something that is valuable because no one has validated it yet. And we tend to disregard it and not treat it properly. And so the main areas, I know we have some that we will stick to today, but some of the main areas are patents, copyrights, trademarks, which I know almost everybody has heard of. But you also have an area of trade secrets that people don't think about, or some people don't even know about it. But that is really the secret sauce, right? That is the difference between Coke and Pepsi, right? In terms of recipe. It's the fact that when you look at it in a glass, you have no idea which one it is until you taste it. And if you're familiar with the taste of both, you can quickly distinguish which one is Coke and which one is Pepsi. So those are the areas that we work in a lot, mostly copyright, mostly trademarks and trade secrets, a little bit of copyright, and patents we have to refer out.
So you said a lot. I don't even know where to begin with this one. I'm taking notes as you talk through this process, but So the idea of taking something of value, an idea of value, taking it from idea to a tangible product, right? And being able to place value on that to validate it, right? So, I have a client that I'm working with right now, and they just recently acquired a company. They purchased another small business. And part of what they purchased, part of what they placed value on was intellectual property, but it was not tangible. There's nothing. It's just the brains inside the business that they purchased. And so, from an acquisition standpoint, and placing value on those things and recording the asset purchase, there's a lot of conversations that we've had to had going through that process. But I think it's important to talk about, when do you start placing value on the things that are inside your head, right? Because that's intellect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If here's my philosophy. If you can attach a dollar figure to it, then you have already said that there's a value there, right? If you are taking the time and investing the energy in taking something from idea to being tangible, you have invested time into that. There's a value attached to that. What does the marketplace say? Because oftentimes, especially when we're talking about intellectual property, typically you are looking at what value does this have in the marketplace. So let's go to your example. There was a reason this person decided to purchase this particular business. There was a value associated with it. Part of the challenge that people don't think about is that intellectual property is an entire asset class. You got to think about it just like you think about a commercial building, right? Just like you think about content or furnishings. You have to think about it like that, because if you don't see it as equivalent to any other property, it is very difficult to assign a value. Now, of course, you first create something, you may not know how much it's worth, but it starts with the mindset. If you tell yourself, oh my gosh, this is $1 million idea, like I need to call Lisa, right? Then if it's important enough for you to call Lisa to talk about, it should be important enough for you to start thinking, am I committed to seeing this thing through? So after their conversation with you, they need to be, if they are committed to seeing this thing through, then they need to be thinking about protecting that intellectual property.
Yeah. And that's I appreciate you having the conversation the way that you're having it, because you have just made it so much easier to understand, equating the different components to the different areas within a commercial building, and attaching value to those things, because you never really think about it that way. But one of the things that you and I had, I love working with professionals who break it down into the simplest terms, help their clients understand, really what this means, so that they can have the educated conversation with the next person that may be interested in buying their ideas, right? But you talked about commitment, and that was something that you and I had a conversation, a few months ago offline, about commitment, and when it's time to really attach some legalities to the intangible and the tangible components of property. Can you talk about that a little bit? The commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. The other aspect of intellectual property is that their upkeep is required, especially when we're looking at things like trademarks and patents, right? Even with trade secrets, there are some maintenance, for lack of a better word. There's some maintenance involved. If you know that you're not the type of person that is going to be monitoring, is somebody encroaching on my trademark? You may need to think about, is this something you want to invest in? Is this a brand that you want to build and you know that you're going to neglect it? So back to the commercial building model, right? If you have a commercial building, would you be willing to put a alarm system on it? Because the only reason that people use alarms is because they don't want someone to steal something from them, right?
That's right.
They don't want you to vandalize their property. And they want to be able to have a way of enforcing that, evidence that they can enforce it. They want to be able to prevent it from happening, even if someone starts. Why would you disregard your trademark that way? Why would you in a situation where you're out here, you're building a brand, you've done that, even when you go through the process. Because one of the things about a trademark is that at around year 5, year 6, you have to recertify that you're still using it in the marketplace. You can't just hold a commercial item hostage, right? Because that's why trademark is under the Department of Commerce, right? Because it's meant to continue to flow. And so these are the things that you want to be committed to. I know in our conversation, in that particular context, it was really about, okay, not you, but as we were discussing that particular matter.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Trust me, my money tied into it.
It's like, do you see that this is something that would still be going full force 5 years from now, 7 years from now? Is this something that, is going to have some longevity? Not to say that it won't grow, change, and evolve, but is this something that is a right now commitment?
Yeah.
Or is it something that's a long-term commitment? Those are all factors that really have to come into play before you make the commitment of getting the trademark.
And that's good. That's good to know. That's really good conversation, because in the world that we're in today, trademarks, copyrights, it's almost become, I don't know, cliche-ish. It's the thing that's being pushed out there, and everybody's got to go get a trademark, and you got to copyright this and do that. But at the end of the day, you there's so many ideas that come into play. And does it make sense to trademark and copyright all these things? And you said something I didn't even know, which is that you have to prove that this license is still being utilized over time, right? So I never knew that. I thought once you got it, then you had it. It's an asset that's yours. But I didn't know you had to prove it. So if there's maintenance and there's costs associated with it, I think it's important to understand that, you don't want to trademark everything. You may not necessarily need to go through the copyright process for everything, but you need to determine what is really what matters in your business. And that's what I appreciate about your conversation with me in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the copyright is you own that, right? For the entire duration of your life plus 70 years. And one of the things that I always tell people is that imagine having something great and grand and wonderful that when you die, your descendants can enjoy the fruit of this for 70 years. Do you know how many generations? Depending on how your family, not your family, but what I'm saying, depending on how your family procreates, that could be a whole lot of people in 70 years, right?
Yeah.
And so just imagine that. This is a program that you have right now that can be made evergreen. And so because you have the copyright to it, your family now, once you're gone, because you enjoy it your entire life, once you're gone, now there's another 70 years attached to it. So everyone that you knew when you are alive would be able to benefit from this. That's huge. That's huge. But yet we don't take the steps to really think about that. The other thing is business owners. Imagine if you need funding for your business and you're able to walk into a funding source and you have $200,000 in assets. A lot of small businesses don't have that type of showing. Right. If nothing else, you can utilize that as collateral.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
To back the business loan that you need.
Absolutely.
And so this is why, like, you get a valuation on it, and all of those things. There is a tangible dollar figure that is attached to this. But again, Lisa, like I was saying, I think it's a mindset thing. Oftentimes we're asking ourselves, is this really good? Right. Are people really going to want this? We ask about that validation, and because we don't know it, we're a little bit skittish in moving forward, and we really don't see the value.
So can you talk a little bit about the difference between trademark and copyright? What's the difference between those two things?
So a trademark is equivalent to your name, right? So it is what you're known by, what you're known for. Okay. A copyright covers things that are creative works, a manifestation of a creative work. So if you have an idea for a book, when you take that idea and you put print to paper, the print to paper is what you get the copyright for, right? Same thing with music. If you have a melody, as long as it's in your head, it's not yours, right? It's not something that you can copyright just because you have this melody. But once you take it from your head to an actual, let's say you write, if you write music, let's say that you write it out. Now it's something tangible. So a copyright covers creative works. A trademark covers your name, your brand, your symbol, what that thing is that designates this is you. So for example, McDonald's, no matter where you go in the world, if you see the golden arches, like, you know what time it is.
Right.
You get a Big Mac. However, if you are looking at like a copyright, of course, are things like books, music, programs, right? Anything that you're going to utilize that has an intangible, that has a tangible product created to it, connected to it.
So is it when we talk about copyrights, and trademarks, really, a lot of people, I've heard this before in my professional journey, that if you just simply write it down, date stamp it, put it in a mailbox, send it to you, don't open the envelope, you have a trademark, you have a copyright. And I know that that's not real, but what are things that people should consider doing before they get to the legalities of it and putting the formal thing in place? So, I've written a book, or maybe I'm in the process of writing a book. I'm putting my ideas down on paper, and I just want to make certain that it's protected right now until I get to the part where I really want to go through the formal process.
The thing, books are a little bit different because now, especially if you're self-publishing and you're going through a self-publishing platform, there's a copyright associated with it when you do it. And a lot of people don't know that, right? So you actually go, they're not going to put something in commerce that doesn't have a copyright associated with it. Now you want to make sure that the copyright is yours, right? That you actually own it versus whatever platform you're going through, because that could happen as well. So you got to pay attention to the terms of use of whatever the platform is. So that's something really that's crucial. So books are a little different when it comes to that. Where I see the biggest problem is when people do presentations. They create something. Let's say you create a program or a course off of your book. Let's use that as an example. The book will have a copyright because you've gone through the publishing process. The presentation may not. It may not. Now, of course, you have plagiarism, you have things like that. But in terms of enforceability, last year, I believe in 2019 was when the Supreme Court said, now you must be registered to be able to bring a claim. Before, it wasn't like that, right? If you could just show that you did utilize this or you were the one who created this, that at least was enough for you to survive and bring the claim. Now there are some processes, which is why, like we were talking about before we went live, there's this uptick in people saying now you got to formalize this thing. Like you were mentioning, as far as the poor man's copyright, you put it in the envelope and you send it certified to yourself and all this sort of stuff. That is no more. As a matter of fact, that really hasn't been the case for a long, long time. Because remember, this is commerce. You cannot stop commerce for the benefit of just wanting to hoard an idea. That's part of the reason why they don't allow you to do that. Another reason, I mean, let's be realistic. A copyright is like $65. Most people spend more than that a month on their cell phone bills or Big Macs, right?
I do.
A lot of people do. And I think that the fear of what something costs is what is causing this big problem.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. The fear of what something costs. When we're talking about building legacies and protecting legacies, it all is based upon the decisions that you make today, not the decisions that you're going to make 10, 15, 20 years from today, decisions that you make today. And what I also say is, no matter what you do in business, every decision that you make is going to cost you something. Every single one of them. Now, it may cost you more later. It's better to pay the price now. And I, educate my clients all the time. One of the first things I tell them when I first start working with them is, if you're going to build a business and you're going to build a sustainable one, you got to pay to play. Period. Everything has a price associated. There are laws in place to protect hard labor. That people come and do something, you took benefit from a business perspective, you are obligated to pay. So you have to pay to play. So it's better to pay today than it is to pay tomorrow. That's what I tell clients all the time. You can choose me today, or you can wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to cost more because that is more work I got to do. Or you could choose me today. It's not going to cost you as much. So I want to talk about, when is the right time to engage you or someone like you, Letonya, in the process. If we're looking to protect our trade secrets, or protect our brand or our copyrights, when is the right time to engage someone like you, and then for how long?
For trade secrets, it really comes down to what I would say is, when you are going, before, not when, before you release this information to someone else, before other people will have privy to this information. So going back to the Coke and Pepsi recipe, right? Before you now start having people coming in that, used to mix it up in your kitchen, right? So now maybe you're in a garage and you got a small, I don't know, 3D printer or some, small manufacturing facility that you put in your garage, but somebody else is now going to know that recipe.
Yeah.
But we need to have that trade secret protections in place. There's some other things that go along with that. You want to have people on different type of under different type of agreements and things like that, so that you don't have a problem down the road. As it relates to copyrights, my philosophy is always before you release it. Again, because these are things that people can essentially take and move on. You want to also make sure that, and like I said, the thing about copyrights is, quite frankly, I mean, they're very cheap in comparison to everything else. A trademark, a little bit different. It really, really depends, because sometimes people are testing the waters with a certain idea. They don't know that they want to build this thing into a brand. They don't know that it's really going to pop off. And so they may not want to pay, or they may not want to invest in doing it too early, because it may be something that they're not going to maintain. It may be something that they're not going to see through as far as they can see through it. And it may be a bad investment for them. The key, what I would tell everyone is, have the conversation. Don't have the conversation by yourself, right? Like we talked about, we had a conversation a few months ago where we talked in depth about all of those things and the things to consider really before moving forward. And this is for a very successful venture. This is not like it's a little bitty idea. It's for a very successful venture. But there are some things that you still have to consider before saying, okay, I just want to see this a little bit. I want to see something else, before I'm willing to do that. And so that the trademark is just a little bit different because of that. But if you're going strong and you know that this is your thing, and you know in your heart that you want to make the commitment, I say have the conversation first. I know when we talk to people, we analyze that just to see before we're going to take on a client. That is just something that we just will not do. But again, you want to make sure that you definitely are ready to commit.
Absolutely. So one of the reasons why you and I had a conversation a couple of months ago is because I am engaged in a business opportunity with someone else, and they are creating creatives. They're creatives, and they're creating things and putting them out in the marketplace as messaging. It's a lot of stuff, and we wanted to be able to protect the ideas, but not every idea, because that's crazy. But we wanted to be able to protect some of the core ideas. But the reason why it became important to have the conversation at that time is because someone had already stolen or taken. I won't say stolen. I'm going to say stolen. Somebody had already stolen the name and the logo that was created, and was using it as their own. And so, it wasn't trademarked. It just wasn't. And so one of the things you told me was, you have to make a determination. Is this going to be what you said earlier? Is this something that you're going to be committed to for the long haul? Or is this something that's just going to be now? Maybe it changes somewhere along the path. I mean, what does it matter, right, to you? And so before I started to invest in too deep into that, I had to ask those questions. But I thought those are really, really good questions. It was cause to pause. And we were early in the process. Well, no, we were kind of midway through the process. But I thought it was important. I was like, pump the brakes and stop. We need to engage individuals in this process. I'm not an attorney. I might try to play one sometimes, but I'm not. I hit a brick wall at some point. And so we really need to make certain that we engage the right people on our team that can give us some perspective, and some advice on how to proceed. So, yeah. I want to give you an example and I'd like for you to share some examples, actually. Let's do that. Share some examples of when, people should have thought a little bit further about the trademarking process and when they should have engaged you. And then what does it mean to enforce the process? Because it doesn't matter if you don't enforce it, right?
Well, sometimes. So I know that a lot of you may have seen about Lady A with the Lady Antebellum scenario. So for those of you that may not know, Lady A, I think is a blues singer. I had never heard of her before this, but she was a blues singer that had apparently is very popular. And when all the things with Black Lives Matter came up, Lady Antebellum decided that they were going to change their name from Lady Antebellum to Lady A. Now, years earlier, Lady Antebellum, had already gotten a trademark for the name Lady A that they did not use though, right? At the time that they got that trademark, they knew about the other Lady A. She had not filed the trademark. They knew about her. She had not filed the trademark. So they were able to get the trademark because she did not oppose. She probably didn't know, but she did not oppose, even though she had been using the name, I think at the time, for almost 10 years. It was known. It was known in the industry. So let's take that scenario because it's one that people can research and they can see. I would have told Lady A, as soon as you started getting popular, you should trademark your name. You just should trademark your name at that stage. When you are already very popular and you have not done that, you should still monitor if somebody's utilizing a similar name in a similar field, right? In a similar genre industry, because you want to make sure that there's no confusion in the marketplace. Now, of course, if you see Lady A and you see Lady Antebellum visually, it's no confusion, right? You got a Black woman and you have, 3 white people. So there's no confusion there, but the name is the same and they are in the same genre, because when you hear the music, you may not know. And that's really what it comes down to. But I would have told her to engage very, very, very early. And this is something that I see with creatives all the time. They just want to do the work. They just want to create, and that's it. They do not want to deal with the business aspect of it. And they have other people who they look to do that. But quite frankly, you can't afford to do that, because you'll find yourself in a situation like this.
Yeah. I never thought of the necessity of, except for things like with McDonald's and Wendy's and all the different things that they have become household symbols of trademark and logos. Never really thought about that. Never really thought about trademarking a business name, and never really thought about trademarking the abbreviation of the name that you use, until the day that one of my clients was slapped with a cease and desist order because he was using the same acronym for his business that another company was using. Neither of us had ever didn't know of the other organization, but they played in the same sandbox. They served the same customers. And quite frankly, they were within a 10-mile radius of one another and never knew it. Never knew it. The long names were different. The abbreviated name was the same. And so they were both being known for that name in the marketplace. And the other one had it trademarked and the other one didn't. So he had to stop using it. But I never thought about it until then. So.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. A lot of people don't, because it's not something that you consider, because you can distinguish your business from other people. You just feel like, oh, okay, well, we're not the same. But the threshold conversation is around, what does the marketplace, what does the marketplace think? Mm-hmm. And just to mention, you mentioned McDonald's, and for those, I don't know how many of you have looked at the McDonald's story, but Ray Kroc stole McDonald's from the McDonald brothers in a very same way, right? He took the name, is what happened. Look at what happened to Nick Cannon. All those years of Wilding Out, and then right before all of this happens, the network files for the trademark and gets it.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
All these years, as successful as that, what was it? What 15 years? Like,
yep.
Think about how long that is. And so the reason I wanted to bring those things up is because these are people that I would hear people say, well, man, Nick should have known. But should he? We don't know. We think that he should have known because he's in the industry, but we don't know how he handles business. We don't know that he didn't have advisors that were, that were doing these things. We don't know what his contract with the network said. We have no idea. We don't know if he signed away ownership of the show and right. He had some residuals. Like, we don't know all of the details. But this is why it's very important to know and be educated. So when you go to the negotiation table, these are the things that you need to negotiate.
Yes.
Right? Because the same thing happened to Simon Cowell with American Idol. A lot of people don't know that this was his concept. This was his idea. But guess what? The way that his contract was written with the network, they were able to say, see you later. And not only see you later, you can't go and do and do this same thing, even though you created this.
Yeah.
This is why it's important to be educated.
Hence, going back to trade secrets and ideas flying around the corporate room, the conference room. And, we're collaborating as a team, and, the objective is to build a solution that you're bringing to market that helps your customers. And you want to make certain that when those conversations happen, that they are protected.
Absolutely. And you also want to make sure that if you're dealing with employees or collaborators, that you retain all intellectual property rights. Most people don't even have that as a clause in their contract.
Mm. Do they even know what it means? Because I do see it. I see it. But do they know what it means? Do either party know what that means?
Well, the part, let me say this, the party that is the one bringing everybody together, if you have in your contract, which you should, that anything that comes out of this, my company owns or retains all rights. That means that the individuals in that room cannot sue you for ownership or a portion of the ownership interest in that. Because remember, you brought them together to bring this idea to life. It should be that you were the originator of that. If you don't have that in there, you're putting yourself at risk of now having somebody to come in and assert those rights. That's what happened to Facebook.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right? They created this thing together. Zuckerberg took it and did what he wanted to do with it. I mean, he had to buy them out, but it was for pennies, right? When you think about the valuation of Facebook, it was for pennies, but they never retained, I mean, think about it. College students, you don't think about that. But the point is, I want to let people know that it's very easy to get into these situations. And it's really not as simple as saying the person should have known.
Right. Yeah. And I appreciate what you said about, when you start to get popular, when you start making money. I had an attorney tell me that many, many years ago. When you start to make money, that's when things start to become extremely important. So you want to make certain that you have certain protections in place, because even if nothing happens, the likelihood or the potential of it happening, somebody challenging or trying to pull things away, suddenly you become, a target. So you want to make certain that you have those protective measures in place. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to have the conversation around asset building versus, protecting from, the big bad brand thief, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because I think that when people understand that you're not just doing this just to keep people out, you're also doing it to immediately increase the value of your business.
Absolutely.
That's the conversation, Lisa, that we don't have, because people just think about it like, well, you don't want anybody to steal your idea. That's true, right? But again, I go back to the security system. You have the security system because you want to protect your asset, not just because it's an asset, but that's where you build and grow and you make money.
That's right.
Right?
That's
So
absolutely
it
true.
allows you to grow. And I want to say just one last thing when we talk about the cost, right? I don't want to say cost, I'll say the investment. I had a conversation with someone, and we were just talking about this, and they, felt some type of way about the cost associated with trademarks, right? Now there's a range, but this is my point. So I asked them, I said, what type of car do you drive? Right. And they told me that they drive XYZ. I said, okay. So when you went and bought your car, if you financed your car, what was the down payment? And they're like, yeah, because your down payment was far more for a car that will never increase in value. Let me say that, right? It will never grow in value. But the down payment on your car was far more. Like what you were willing to spend on a car was far more than what you're willing to sit here and invest in a tangible asset for your company that's going to do two things. It's going to help your company build wealth, right? And it's also going to protect your business and protect your profits from other people. But now you're asking yourself, why should I do that? No, I get it, right? The car, you get in the car, you drive, you do all of that. But here's the thing, even with intellectual property, you're able to license it. Mm-hmm. You're able to use it as collateral. You're able to use it again to immediately add to the valuation of your business.
Yeah.
Can't necessarily do that with some of the other things that we spend money on. So I just wanted to just give that last little example of why it makes sense, even economically, to seriously consider this when you're building your business.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I wish we had all night to talk. This is so good. There's so many nuances and so many different layers that we could peel apart. We definitely have to come back and have another conversation about this, because I think this is important. And I love the way that you ended this, because it is all about building a sustainable, value-filled asset. And so when you're thinking about, all the things the components that you're building in the business, all of the areas that you're putting in place to protect the business, to protect the asset, you want to have that in mind. Today, legacy is a decision, period. It's a decision. It's intention, right? It's mindset. So we have to change the narrative and then change the mindset. So I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So before we wrap up, share with everybody how they can learn a little bit more about you and a little bit more about your law firm.
Absolutely. They can go to my website, which is iprotectyourbrand.com. And from there, you'll be able to connect with me on all social media outlets.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my friend. I do appreciate you and coming on board and sharing so much wisdom. I mean, this was really, really, really good. I can't tell you. I have a whole lot of notes down here. Hoarding ideas. That stands right out on the page for me right now. You can't hoard ideas. You have to have a purpose behind it, right? So But listen, I thank you so much. And I look forward to having you back on again sometime soon.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Well, I hope you all understand now how very important it is to have an intellectual property attorney on board as a part of your A team, especially right now in today's times. I mean, now that we have gone further and deeper into the digital world, the virtual world of business, it becomes even more important that we have the right players on our team to help us to protect our assets and build our legacies. So I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. We will be back again next Wednesday to finish the conversation on getting your legal house in order. I will actually have IRS and tax attorney Beverly Winstead will join us next week to talk about ways to protect your legacy, continue to build that asset, and to make certain that you are optimizing your tax position. So I hope you guys will join us again next Wednesday at 4:30. We'll be here every Wednesday at 4:30. And again, and until next time, I am Lisa Anderson, Strategic Business Advisor, Virtual CFO with the Novel Transformation Solutions, your $1 Million mentor. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you.